Recording is on.
Today we'll be talking about the start the project, which is lesson 2. So what are the things we need to know or a project manager needs to know when he starting the project? In this lesson 2, we are going to look at the start the project. The topic under it are what? How do we identify and engage stakeholder? Stakeholder identifications and stakeholder engagement. Then, how do we form the team? Because the team are going to work with you to accomplish the project objectives. So how do we form them? How we form them? How do you build a shared understanding between your teams and the stakeholder who are involved in the project? Then remember, you must also need to understand when you are starting the project to determine, to learn or to understand the project approach. How do you determine the project approach? Whether because the project approach, the kind of approach you are going to use for your project depends upon the kind of project you are doing. There are some projects that are complex, and the ones that are simpler, that are ones that are be able with risk, have much risk embedded in that project. So you must first understand the kind of project you are managing or you are about to manage. Then now it helps you to determine the project approach. When I say project approach, we are talking about which methodology are you going to use. So that is what you are going to learn under the lesson 2. So that was a topic A, identify and engaging the stakeholder. Before we start, we should know who are stakeholder. Stakeholder are the group of people or a organization who impact your project, who make decisions that can affect your project, or the outcome of your project will affect them. So those are the stakeholder. Sometimes the decision they make will affect your project, or the outcome of your project will affect them. They are the people who are interested in the outcome of your project. So that's a simple definitions of a stakeholder. And if you look at these typical project stakeholders, they can be categorized. You can categorize this in like I said. You can categorize them. It could be a project team or a project team member. I could also be maybe the people in your project that are not a part of your team member or key stakeholder or non-key stakeholder. It can also be external stakeholder and internal stakeholder. For example, an end user of the solution you are creating your project is a stakeholder. A customer who consumes your product organization, which you created for your organization through your project, is a stakeholder. Employee, a stakeholder. Organization itself is a stakeholder. The whole enterprise, stakeholder. Managers who support your project, stakeholder. The sponsor, business partner, supplier and contractor, your vendors. The government who make regulation, the regulatory body, the community in which you are carrying out your project, they are all stakeholder. They have stake in the project because the project will affect them, so they want to know what is going on in your project. So the first thing we do when you are starting a project is to try to identify who are the stakeholder of the project are managing. That is what you do as a project manager. Then you need also to create another plan. We call it stakeholder engagement plan. It's not enough for that there will be a stakeholder or who are interested in your project or the outcome of your project. You must have a way, you must have a document, you must create a plan how you are going to engage them. Because if you don't know how to engage your stakeholder, you don't have an engagement plan with them, that means you are not in the same maybe book with them. So that means that it looks as if you don't have any plan for them when it comes to your project. Because throughout the lifespan of your project, you keep on communicating information, communicating report, communicating data to your stakeholder. And that's one of the way you can engage them because they have needs that need to be met in your project. They have interest in your project. They have invested maybe one thing or the other in your project, so they want to know the outcome or the progress you are making in your project. So therefore, you have to create a plan called stakeholder engagement plan. Then you also need to know that you need to create, apart from the stakeholder engagement plan, you need to also have what they call communication management plan. How are you going to communicate with them? Because about 95% of your time or 99% of your time in your project, you keep on communicating information, communicating data, communicating report, and many other things. So inside the communication management plan, you ask yourself, okay, who are the key stakeholder or the stakeholder I will be communicating with? What type of communication will I be what type of information will I be communicating with them? Who's supposed to receive communication? Who is not supposed to receive communication? When should I communicate? How often will I communicate? And if I want to communicate, you need to engage with them to know their communication preferences. And when you're talking about communication, you'll be talking about, okay, which kind of communication technology will I use to meet their maybe their communication needs. Then you also need to create another document called Stakeholder Engagement Assessment Matrix. Then later we are going to talk about that. Then stakeholder identification, that's the starting point. You should be able to identify your stakeholder because throughout the life of your project, you keep on identifying stakeholder because any stakeholder that you did not identify early can cause surprise to you. That's why we say that identify and engage stakeholder early to avoid surprises later in the project because they can draw you back. So it is your duty and responsibility as your project about to start to identify first and foremost the key stakeholder. Later on, you can keep on identifying all the other stakeholders too. In stakeholder identification, who are they? So to identify them, how are you going to identify them? You say, who are they? To know who they are, you need to check the business case. It's a document that you have created when you are trying to select your project. There are some stakeholders that participate in that. So you can identify stakeholder from there. Who authorized the project? Who approved the business case? Because we know that business case is what is a document that justify the project. The one that you give information about. Okay, for example, if I have our organization have many projects to execute or to manage or to choose from. We have project A, project B, project C, project D. And we need to select one of these projects. And there must be a criteria we must use to select those projects. Because your organization does not always have all the financial capability to manage all projects. So that means you need to select among all those projects the one that uh, best fitted to your organizational and strategic objective. So you now write a business case. That business case justify, okay, if I choose project A over project B, so what must be the thing that will make me to select that project? That is why yesterday we talked about return on investment. So the one that give me a better result in terms of result, I will pick first. We look at different way we can do that: return on investment, NPV, net present value, opportunity cost, and many other things like that. So after you have done that one, that document need to be ratified. Somebody ratify it, so you know that that is maybe it could be maybe the sponsor or key stakeholder that at the strategic level. Then you also need to create a benefit management plan for names. So through the benefit management plan, you can also spot some name of the key stakeholder. Later on, you check the issue, impediment log or change log, requirement log to see who else is needed or named. All these documents will also be a document of the past projects you have done. For example, issue log. when you add, when maybe the previous project manager who did maybe a particular project for the organization, he has some issue that confronted the project. All those issues, or we can call it issue log or impediment log. You see, you record it there. So through that one, you can identify who were the stakeholder in the past, maybe the project, or when you are making significant changes in your project, who are the people, who are the authority, who will now approve the changes. We talk about the integrated change control process. Before you make any changes in your project, you document the change request, you submit it to the change board. The change board will now evaluate it to see how would that change affect your project constraint, like budget, like cost, like quality, like scope, like time or schedule. Those board, they will ratify it, they will validate it, they will approve it. So therefore, they are also they are also a stakeholder. So you can identify who does that. Then when you prepare you call something requirement documentation. You know, before you start your project as a project manager, you want to create solution for organization or stakeholder. You need to gather requirement during the requirement gathering or requirement elicitation. Those stakeholders that you gather requirement for, so you know that these are the people, or maybe a particular organization you are trying to create solution for in your department, a particular department in your organization. Like I used to the example I normally use, the account department. You want to create a accounting package for the accounting software. All the people who are going to use that software in that department are your stakeholder, so you can identify them from there. So you check the issue or impediment log, change log, or requirement documentation to see who else is needed or named. So the other also you can have external stakeholder, your customers, who eventually will use your project. You can get that one from the record of your organization. So you can do a lot of things to gather them, maybe interview them to know who they are. Then also, you should know what their relationship to the project. If you look at this, you say what is their relationship to the project? That is when you say relation, you are talking about what is their interest in the project. Would they be involved in the project? There are some stakeholder that will actively involve in your project. So you look at their interest, their involvement in the project, and the interdependencies, especially when your project, maybe you are managing more than one project. So you can see the stakeholder in the project A and stakeholder in project B. Then what is their influence? Very important. There are some stakeholders that have high influence, high power. So how do you relate with them? You don't play with a stakeholder that has high influence in your project and also equally high power or high interest. You need to know how you are going to manage such a stakeholder. So you can identify them. Later on, we are going to see how you are going to identify them. Then what will be the potential impact on project success? Because your project to come out successfully, it depends upon how you are able to manage and relate with the stakeholder. So if you don't know how to manage them, it can impact the actions can impact negatively on your project. So remember that any stakeholder you have not stakeholder you have not identified or engaged in early can cause a surprise to your project. To identify them, there are different techniques you can use. That is what we are looking at here now. Through data gathering, you can see. And to gather, to data gathering, you can see, you can use questionnaire and survey to assess the stakeholder that you have identified. You need to use data gathering techniques through questionnaire. You create you design questionnaire, or you conduct survey. Questionnaire is meant for your stakeholder who are not within your geographical area. You can send the questionnaire to them through online or wherever they are to fill it. It could be open-ended questionnaire or closed-ended questionnaire. What is most important is that you want to gather information from them. That's one of the way you can assess the stakeholder. You use survey when um, the stakeholder are within your geographical area. You can conduct survey, interview them. You understand me? One-on-one interview. Speak with them. Anyone in your organization outside. When you conduct survey, you can get their opinion about the project. It could be a brainstorming section whereby you bring all the key stakeholder or other stakeholder together. You now brainstorm on a particular issue about your project. You want their inputs. You throw a question and maybe an issue for them to solve together so that everybody can be on the same page. So that's what you call data gathering. What are you doing here? You are trying to get information from them about the project you want to implement. Then when you gather information from them, because if you conduct survey or you create a questionnaire, you do brainstorming session, when you bring them together, this is just like a data or like a requirement you are gathering from them about your project. So those requirements, to be useful to you, you need to analyze them. You call it data analysis. Data analysis. Stakeholder analysis. What are their stake in the project? What is their interest? What is their right in the project? All these things you need to analyze. Because this one will enable you to know how you are going to relate and engage with them. You have to know each of the stakeholder. What is the interest of this stakeholder? Stakeholder A. What is the right or ownership? What knowledge does that stakeholder has about the project? What is the contribution of that project stakeholder in that project? Sometimes to do this one, you also need to look at the document and to existing document in the organization or existing document about the previous project that was carried out in your organization to do an analysis about those stakeholders that participate in those projects who are also participating in your own project. So those data must be analyzed. Information about the stakeholder must be analyzed. So after the analysis of the data or the analysis of the requirement, what do? You represent it with a diagram, graphical representation. All these things you are doing, it will help you to assess the stakeholder, to know how you are going to relate with them, how you are going to work with them, how you are going to know their interests. You understand me? So then you can use data representation to do that. In this place, we have what they call two-dimensional grid. We are going to show you later. These are the way you can represent the information about of the information you gather from the stakeholder. So data gathering, like requirement or information from them, you analyze the stakeholder based on their requirement, their interest, then you represent that in the diagram. We are going to see that one later. Then all the keys, all the stakeholders that you have identified, or you keep on identifying, because throughout the lifespan of your project, you keep on identifying stakeholder. But the key stakeholder, you have to identify them earlier, because those one play major role at the starting point of your project. For example, now your sponsor, at least before you start a project, you know who is a sponsor. We know who is the champion, project sponsor, or the key people at the strategic level who contributed to who have impact on the project. So all the stakeholders that you have identified, you have to document their information inside the word stakeholder register. That means that you have to create a stakeholder register. You use it to do what? To capture and record important stakeholder information. Then you also look at your organization process assets. We talked about that yesterday. This one will tell you information about your project. Whenever you are conducting maybe you are a managing project for your organization, what are the processes you use? What are the plans? What are the information that will help you? Because we call it organization process asset. They are assets. There are information about the project you have done in the past, important information about when someone is conducting, you are conducting maybe you are carrying out a project for your organization. What is their policy about that? What is their policy? What policy must you follow? What are the process you have to follow? That's what I mean. All those things and organizational process assets. All the important information that assists you to manage your project also can be available through the organization process asset. So there are documents of the past project. There are documents about information about the past project that you need to go through to help you to understand the project you are managing, so that you don't need to reinvent the wheel. That's how I mean, the policy, the process, and everything about the project. But stakeholder register is a living document because you keep on updating it. There's a need for you to update them because sometimes some stakeholder they are no longer interested. They may not be no longer interested in the project. You have to strike them out of the stakeholder register. Some stakeholder, unfortunately, maybe along the way, some of them maybe die even before the completion of the project. So you are going to strike their name out of it. Any new stakeholder that you have identified again while you are managing your project, you need to add it to that stakeholder register. So that means you keep on updating it. Any stakeholder that are maybe left the organization, maybe your team member, you have gotten a better job somewhere else, and you resign. What do? You don't keep the information that you strike it up. That's why I say a stakeholder register is a living document, it's a living artifact that you keep on updating throughout the lifespan of your project. It's very important for you when you are doing the PMP exam because it's a living artifact, it's a living document that you keep on updating based on whether what the activities or what goes on in your project about the stakeholder. It describes the evolving relationship with stakeholder throughout the project. The information about the stakeholder are there, their profiles, their department, or if they are external stakeholder, how you can reach there. Maybe information about how you can reach there, their phone number, their preference when it comes to maybe you want to communicate with them. So some of them will say, okay, you can only get me on phone at a particular maybe period of the day, or you can only get me on email. I don't open my email on the so time. So all those information about them, their engagement, their interest, their what they like about the project, or the stakeholder that does not have interest, or neutral stakeholder, or resistor. I mean that one. All those information you need to put them in the stakeholder register. It will enables you to satisfy them and to know how you can effectively and efficiently manage them. Because if you are not able to manage your stakeholder, it can act as a barrier to you in achieving your project objective. So the stakeholder register contains the information necessary to execute the stakeholder engagement plan. You need to know how to engage them because if you don't know how to engage them, you cannot get a better support from them. That's what I mean. So, but you know how to engage. If you know how to engage them, they should see that you are on the same page with them, and they will keep on supporting you whenever you have issue in your project. So refer to stakeholder register from previous. Can you see? As I said earlier on, you can refer to stakeholder register from previous or similar project for help. You remember that this is a public document because it contains important information, key information, and sensitive information about the stakeholder that you have identified. So make sure that the information there are not kept to the public. So ensure that the information presented is appropriate. Whatever is going to a sensitive information about them, you need to hide them for your consumption alone. It's not for the public. So just what you need to understand that any stakeholder that you have identified for your projects that will work with you in your project, you have to document them inside the stakeholder register. This is a typical example of a stakeholder register. I don't know whether I can see it very well. You can see the stakeholder register. You see the first column is talking about what? The name of the stakeholder, who will be working with, who will involve in your project. The title, for example, if you look at the number one, the name is what? Eugene Lowe. The title is the CEO of the organization. is an internal stakeholder. That means that we also have external stakeholder. What's the project role? It's a sponsor. It sponsors the project. You can see the way you put the information there. This one enables you to be able to work with them, engage with them, manage them successfully for your project success. What is the major requirement? You gather requirement from the stakeholder. What do they want? Can you see? This one say is requirement that a successful completion of the project. That's his major requirement. That is what is expecting from the project. What is his own expectation? What is the expectation of Mr. Eugene? Can you see? He want the project to be done, can you see, on time completion. He's talking about a scheduling. It's important that this project is for him. The important thing about this project for him that you should be able to meet all the deadlines as at when the project is supposed to be delivered, or the activities of the project need to be delivered. You should be on time and successful partnership. That means you want you and him or your team member to continuously engage in the engagement and loop. Then is a champion. That's the influence. He's the one that championed the project, and he's also the one that sponsored the project. And his requirement is what? Successful completion. If you look at the next one, number 3. Well, let me see the one. Let me see another one. Let me see. Number 8 is Akewulang. That is his name. Then the title is what? VP of Marketing. It's an internal stakeholder. What is his project role? It's a marketing expert. So you need to work with him, because maybe if your project has to do with something like you are building solution for marketing, so you need to work with that person. What is major requirement? Elevation of brand. Elevation of brand. When you're talking about marketing, you're talking about brand, because your business is about brand, image of your organization, the image of your brand. Because in the market, people are looking for good brand that have made name, that produce a good result. Their name is on the record. Uh, what do you call it? The customer know the brand based on their performance and their performance of their product in the market. So you want to work with teams so that you help them to, through what you are going to create, you can help the organization to display a better brand for their customer. What is the expectation? High quality what tenant? Maybe you are building a house. Then it's a supporter. So you can add more information to it if you like. Don't just give an example of the information that can be recorded in the project stakeholder register. It's about the profile. This one is not even complete. You want to know what is the communication preference of that stakeholder. Whether I can always be communicating with you through phone, or how often will I be communicating with you? If I want to give my report to the person, through what channel? So you can add more information as you like. But also, you need to know your stakeholder beyond job title. And how will you do that? If you look at this information here now, you want to know the stakeholder, the level of authority in your project. You want to know the stakeholder, the level of interest he or she acts in your project. That is, when you say interest, it's a level of concern about the project outcome. Power means level of authority it has in your project. Influence, the ability to influence project outcome. When you come to stakeholder, they are a real politician. They can migrate around, they can twist in. So you must understand this, because inside every organization there are politicians. So you must understand the political game in your organization. What is going on there? You must be politically maybe educated as a project manager to know who are the key people, who are the important people who can influence your project, who can determine whether your project will be successful or not successful. So you must know the influence of that particular project, stakeholder. Ability to influence the project outcome or cause changes to the planning or execution, or magnitude of potential contribution or disruption to your project. There are some stakeholders that can act, that can disrupt your project. Some of them are neutral project manager. Some of them are resistor. They resist your project. They don't want it to come alive. So they can also be champion or supporter or neutral or detractor. So it's very important for you to understand this. We are going to place this one in a diagram later to see how you are going to use it. So you will tailor stakeholder assessment to suit the project needs. The goal of this exercise is to facilitate what your planning of effective communication with stakeholder. Because if I know that you have a high power and high interest, I will know how I'm going to address issue concerning you about the project. How do I manage it? Very important. So this is how you apply it. We call it stakeholder mapping. Stakeholder mapping. You will map the stakeholder based on their work, power, and interest. You can see you use two dimensions to map stakeholder. Power and interest grid, power and influence grid. Anyway, you can use any one of them. Impacts they have with the project and their influence. You can see here now. If you look at this diagram, you see this one where can you see where you see power? A stakeholder that has high power and low power. If you look at the horizontal, that is a x-axis. We have high axis. You see here in this diagram, in this chart, you see the y-axis, power, high power, low power. If you look at the x-axis, low interest and high interest. So you now classify the stakeholder in this matrix. So what are we trying to learn here now? For you to be able to manage the stakeholder very well, you classify the stakeholder in this matrix. If you look at this one, I say a stakeholder that has high power and high interest. What is the suggestion? How will you relate with that person? How do you engage that person? You manage that stakeholder closely. You engage him closely. You work closely with him. You can even make him to be your mentor. Sometimes you know certain things, you just want to go and play game and ask him, okay, how will I do this? Because he has high power, high interest, he can manipulate the project, he has power in the project, he can do and undo. So, if you are doing the exam, if the exam said that you are managing a project, a project ABC, and Mr. J or Mr. Dan is one of the stakeholders that has high power and high interest in your project. So how will you relate with that stakeholder? The exam expects you to say what? You will manage him closely. Let me give you a typical example of this. If you understand the Lagos State political terrain, if you understand the Lagos State political terrain, you will understand that this information you are getting here is very important. Everybody knows that in Nigeria that there's one particular man in this country. He has high power in Lagos politics and business activities, and the high interest in that Lagos. In fact, you can say that he has pocketed Lagos. Lagos as a state, the state is inside his pocket. And you can remember that there was a kind of scenario. There was a particular governor that did not complete his term in about 3 or 4 years ago. Why did he fail? He did not recognize that this person high power and high interest in Lagos. So because he thought that he is a governor, he has all things to say. But they show him the way out through the internal politics, because it's like most of their policy, he doesn't want to follow it. But I'm talking about internal politics. So the same thing will happen in your project. You must be able to identify who are the stakeholder that have high power in your project, that have high interest. So if there's a particular stakeholder that has high power but low interest, how do you engage that person? You keep him satisfied because of that power. Somebody has high power. but low interest. Just satisfying whatever you want, satisfying with what you want. But the one here, the one that high power, high interest, you give him all these thing here. You keep him informed, you satisfy him, you monitor him. He can be very dangerous person. It can make life difficult for you when you're managing your project. So if you have a stakeholder that has low power, low interest, you monitor him closely. Because at a stage in your project, a particular stakeholder may not have interest or in that area. But at another stage of your project, it may transit from being a low power or low interest stakeholder. So you have to know when does that person transit to maybe high power, high interest, or high power, low interest. So whenever you identify a stakeholder that has high interest but low power, because of the interest he has in your project, what you need to do, you need to inform him, you need to communicate with him because of the interest. But if he has high power, low interest, because of his power, you keep on satisfying him. But if he doesn't have high power, no, he has low power, low interest, you monitor him. You may not know it's not a threat to your project. But sometimes when you reach a stage, because your project is something you do continuously until you finish, there may be a particular stage in your project whereby it can move from that stage to another stage. It can become a stakeholder that has high power and high interest. So this is one of the way you can manage them. You have to draw what they call stakeholder mapping to know the stakeholder, their interest, their power level, and maybe political power level, so that you can be able to know how to manage that stakeholder. That's what you have done here. Then you also need to know the direction of influence in your organization. You know, when you talk about influence, remember when I talk about influence, what do we call influence here? When it comes to project, influence. I see. Somebody who are the people in your organization are the key stakeholder who have the ability to influence project outcome or causes changes to the planning or execution of a project. You can see who have the magnitude of potential contribution, or it can disrupt your project. Like the one they did for that one governor in Lagos. They made sure that he did not complete his term. There's some power behind who made sure that this guy is not being loyal to us. The fact that he's a governor doesn't mean that he will not follow their party principle. They remove him. You can see. The same thing will happen in your project, in your organization. Not everybody likes you to succeed. Not all the stakeholders will support you. There are some people who are neutral. Some people will engage with you, they will support you. So you must know who they are and how you are going to relate with them. That's the purpose of this. You can also use three-dimensional. Can you see matrix? Use three-dimension cube. You call it a cube to refine the analysis further. You know the person, stakeholder that has power, has interest, and you also understand their attitude toward the project. So you place each stakeholder on the grid. Do not use their name, because if you use their name, if you place a stakeholder here who has low power, low interest, the person will understand that, oh, you think that I don't have power, I don't have interest, you classify me in that area. So you don't need to put their name. In your own personal record, you can put their name so that you know how to relate with them. Use the same quadrant label, but change the axis label. That's one of those things. So when you look at the director of influence, you should understand the social network of project stakeholder, their political power, the people that has a power level in the organization, high power level, specifically the direction of their influence on the project. When you say upward direction of influence, you are talking about the whole organization, enterprise, the parent organization, the organization you are managing the project for, the people at the strategic level, senior management, senior managers, senior business people in your organization. Those people who have the financial interest in organization, they are always at the top, at the strategic level. You know the power, direction of influence. The downward, in the project hierarchy, your team or the specialists who are executing the project. Outward, that means your clients, end user, or the regulators, their outside organization. You can see direction of influence. The sideward, friendly or competitive for resources. Your project manager peers. You know, your organization might be doing more than one project. Maybe your fellow project manager who is managing another project, the resources that you use, that person also will be using it. You need to know that project manager so that you can negotiate resources with them or other organizational department who will be engaged or who you are going to work with when you are carrying your project management. So these are the direction of influence. You are supposed to understand who are these people for effective running and implementation of your project. Very key for you to do that. You can also look at the silence model. You can see this silence model. You can see you can see like a can see it's talking about urgency, legitimacy, and the power. When you talk about urgency, you are looking at what the level of required attention, details, time constraint, and high stake. That's what I mean. When you're talking about legitimacy, you are talking about appropriate involvement or proximity as applied to team stakeholder, indicating the level of involvement with the project. That way, this another way you can use it, call it silent model. We are talking about okay, this stakeholder is actively engaging in the project, is leading the project. He wants the project to succeed. He's supporting the project. So what do they want? Legitimacy. You want to know the power level of the stakeholder. You want to know the stakeholder that want things to be done very fast. So this one was also help you to know who are the stakeholder and how to relate with them, how to engage with them, how to communicate with them, how to work with them. So we are doing all this information that you have a buy-in from them. You want to be on the same page with them, and then when they know that you cater for their interests, you engage with them, you communicate with them, you put their interest in your mind while you are managing the project. Anytime you have issue in your project, they will support you financially, support you in any way you want because you cater for their interest. You say you focus on the product owner. This one is talking about agile because it's the product owner that the one that gather requirement from the end user. So also you need to work with that person too. Are they familiar, interested, or and engaged enough with the project to make decision and move the project forward? So all these things we are talking about here now, we are talking about your ability to identify the stakeholder, you know their power level, their interest in the project, their influence in the project, their ability to make decision, and their power level. It will help you to manage the project successfully. So let's look at the stakeholder perceptions. I've said earlier on that for your project to succeed or not to succeed, it depends on how you manage and how you relate and how you engage on how you communicate with the customer. I mean, with the stakeholders. So, must be holistically understood in the customer-centric project management approach. Where you're talking about stakeholder perception, you must know who are the customer. You are creating solution out of your project, and a particular customer are going to make use of that solution by the time you deploy it, you release it as a deliverable. So that you must be holistically it must be holistically understood in the customer-centric project management approach. So if you understand who are your stakeholder, what do they want, how do they want it, when they want it, see it will make your work easier. Can be damaging to a project whether they are negative or positive. So if there are some stakeholder that or customer that are or a stakeholder that they can have a negative influence on your project. So you need to identify all these people so that you know how to engage with them. That's what he's trying to say here. So why do you think it is important to understand both positive and negative stakeholder perception of your project? Yes, so that you know how to engage with them and how to manage them. So that how to create a stakeholder engagement plan and management with them. Also, you also need to capture the stakeholder feedback and perception. To do that one, you need what they call interpersonal skill. All those soft skills that can help you to relate well with people. Stakeholders are people, they are not machine. So you must know how to relate with them. You need to have what they call that skill called interpersonal skill, ability to listen actively to your customer or end user or your stakeholder. You understand me? Understanding from their point of view, what do they actually need from your project. Emotional intelligence. Sometimes you may have issue with some of the key stakeholder. They may be annoying with you. They want to pick a trouble with you. You must not, you must, or there might be a conflict between your project and your and your stakeholder. What do? You need to have emotional intelligence skill. What does it mean? It means that you need to help them to manage their emotion, and also you need to manage your own emotion. That's one of the way you can resolve conflict. Not that two people are shouting at one another, at logger with one another. One person must be able to make sure that you quiet the other person down, your emotion down, you quiet your own emotion down, so that you can come to a better understanding and take a better route to resolve conflict and issue. Then, effective communication method. You must know how to communicate effectively or communicate information and data throughout the lifespan of your project. You must know how to communicate information to your team member. You must know how to communicate information to your key stakeholder. You must know how to communicate information to what? To the sponsor. You must know how to communicate effectively to the project champion. You must know how to communicate with the people outside your organization, like the regulatory body. All these things, it will help you to get a feedback when you communicate. There are two ways. I communicate with you, you give me you give me the feedback. Most of the time, the feedback help us to improve on what we are doing in our project. So very important. So you capture stakeholder feedback. For example, now you are expected to write a report about the progress of your project. That report can come in any form. It can be progress report about what you are doing, to track what you are doing. So when they track it, they will know where you are issue, or where they're supposed to come in to help you. It's like you can also get a feedback for them on, so that feedback will help you to improve on what you are doing in your project. So very, very important. But for the people who are going to do the exam, you look at this diagram here, say the key stakeholder. What do? You interview to understand project requirement. You gather requirement from the stakeholder about what you are going to build, what solution you are going to create, what are the deliverable, what are the content of the deliverable, how do they want it, what do they want it, what's the nature. Can you see? You interview to understand the project requirement. You have to gather requirement from them. We said that requirement is what is a usable representation of need. And you also need to understand the vision and communication preference. You cannot start a project until you understand the visions of the organization, until you understand what the people at the strategic level who make decision, who work with vision, goals, and strategy, who make policy organization. You must understand what is their mind. Why did they constitute that project? Why did they assign you to be the project manager? What are they trying to achieve for the organization? Because what kind of improvement do they want in the organization? Because your project, the outcome of your project will help the organization to improve. It's one of the strategies they are going to use to improve. Therefore, you must understand it from their own point of view, so that your project objectives must align with the organizational strategic objective. You must know what they call communication preferences. Different stakeholder ask different communication preferences. Somebody will tell you, you can only get me on phone. Somebody will tell you, some of the stakeholder will tell you, you can only get me on WhatsApp or through mail. Even that my mail, I don't read it till 12 o'clock. You can call me, you want to use phone, you can only get me on my phone in a particular period. You must understand who they are, their communication preferences. Some of them will say, I don't want, you can only see me in my office. I don't want to see one on one. Another person, anything you want to tell me, you need to document it. So you must understand the communication preferences of all the key stakeholders you've identified. You must also understand that all stakeholders appropriate and regular project communication. You keep on communicating information, reports. You send your reports, progress reports. Where you are in your project, you send it. All those things. But if it were a large or public group where your stakeholders are scattered, they are not in the same geographical area, you use what they call questionnaire. Or if your stakeholders are within the same geographical area, you can use survey. You conduct survey. Or facilitated conversation section. You bring all of them together. It can be an online meeting to facilitate section with them and to get more information about the project from them online. You can use digital media like email campaign, website, group chat, poster, and advertising. So it's very important to understand this. No, we are learning. We are learning this course, so we are going to do it in a sequence. So then, the next thing you you have to plan for them. In fact, it's very, very key in your project. You plan to communicate with stakeholder. All these stakeholders you gather together. You know, I told you yesterday, I said, once you identify the stakeholder, some of your stakeholders are not in the same geographical area. We have virtual stakeholder. You are some of your team who are also in other part of the world. For example, if your project span across many nations, and that all these your team member you work together to achieve a common goal, you must remember that these people, I cannot see them face to face. You have to put in place the collaborative, what they call it, collaborative software that can enable you to collaborate with them. So you plan to communicate with stakeholders, whether the one that are far or near. So you also need to do what under this place. See, I want you to follow what I'm saying. You have to plan the communication how you are going to communicate with stakeholder, whether they are within the same geographical area or whether they are the one that are they are not in the same geographical area. So there are two documents you are going to create under this, because in project management, you have to do your work following a particular process that will enable you to achieve your project objective. So you are going to create a two document here. Can you see? Stakeholder engagement plan, which identify require management strategy to effectively engage with stakeholder. Any way you think that will help you to be able to manage them effectively, you put that information inside what the stakeholder engagement plan. How you will know how best that you know on how to engage them effectively so that they can cooperate with you, they can support you, they can assist you, you and them can be in the same page. All the information about that, you put them inside the stakeholder engagement plan. Then you now create another document again. You say, team fulfilled strategy via communication described in the communication management plan. You are going to also create what they call, you are going to create another document called communication management plan. When I say communication management plan, how are you going to communicate information to the stakeholder or your team member? When will I communicate? How often will I communicate? Who will receive communication information? Who will not receive information? If my team member are not in the same geographical area, what kind of a communication tools I'm going to use to pass information to them? If the stakeholders are not in the same geographical area, what kind of a technology will I use to engage them or to collaborate with them? These are the information you put inside the communication management plan. The stakeholder management plan is all what you know that will help you to identify the stakeholder and to manage them successfully so that they can cooperate with you to enable you to do your project successfully. That is what are the information you put inside the stakeholder engagement plan. So the exam will ask you all this. They will not ask you a straight question and say, you are a project manager of ABC. What is the meaning of the stakeholder engagement plan? No, they are going to ask you in form of a scenario question. They can say, you are a project manager ABC. You are a project manager that managing project ABC. You have your team member who are scattered all over the world. Some of them are near, some of them are far. And you know that for you to be able to carry your project successfully, you must know how to manage them very well to support you. Can I ask you, based on that, I say, okay, what document will you use to do that? They will give you other one that are correct and the other one that are not correct. So in that case, now the scenario I've just painted for you now, you use a stakeholder engagement plan. That is the one that can the information that will assist you to manage the to manage the stakeholder very well to help you to achieve your project goal is called a stakeholder engagement plan. But when the question is talking about communication, data, information, then you know that you are talking about what communication management plan. What does it contain? What information will I communicate to stakeholder? Who will receive communication? Which stakeholder will not receive communication? How often will I communicate? I must communicate information that will help them to understand my project. You understand me? What kind of communication technology will I use? I must understand their communication preferences. Those are the information you put there. It helps you to be organized, to have control over your project, to be able to manage the stakeholder very well, to have a smooth running in your project activities. That's the purpose of this. PMI in the example, don't play with this. You must understand the difference between stakeholder engagement plan and the communication management plan. Then you need to carry out what they call communication requirement analysis. This one help you to do what? Lead to a clear articulation of the stakeholder communication needs. Like I've explained to you before, some stakeholder will tell you that you can't get me in WhatsApp. You can't get me online. You can get me through my phone at a particular point. So you know the communication needs of the stakeholder. You know the kind of report a particular stakeholder need to have. You understand me? So communication requirement analysis also help you to do what? Enable effective choice about communication topics. Who will receive information? Who will not receive information? How often will I communicate? You understand me? The information I'm going to communicate to them must be related to the project I'm handling. We're not talking about a social media where people will talk, hello, how are you, all this. No. Any information that will be relevant for you to manage your project very well and also need to for you to manage them very well, or you need to get the approval from them. These are the things you're talking about. Can you see? Enable effective choices about communication topics. How frequent will you communicate? What model are you going to use? And the technology you are going to use to communicate with them must be in place before you start your project. Output is a grid questionnaire. Can you see? Especially when you want to gather information from them or requirement or survey that document the communications and technology requirement for each stakeholder. Very important. We have communication methods. Because we are learning, I know you know all this. For the person who is going to do the exam, I need to teach it in a sequence. So I say communication methods and technology. There's a question is asking you. He said, do you use any other communication method or techniques on your project? That's a question for you. Are there types your organization does not allow? Some organization some organization don't like you using WhatsApp when you are at workplace or Facebook, because sometimes Facebook will push certain things to you that you lose focus of the work you are doing. So not allow you to use that because it can engage your time. You can keep on pressing and doing social activities, and to the extent that you abandon your work because that thing. So that's what we're talking about here now. What are the method and technology? Look at the one meeting of verbal. When I say meeting of verbal, whereby I can see you, my team member face to face, I can see the stakeholder face to face, I can talk face to face, I can communicate face to face. You give me instant maybe response to the question I may ask you about the project at the face to face. It could be virtual, video conferencing or audio conferencing to communicate information or information about that are relevant to how the project will move forward. Or it could be phone call. Those are the, can you see? The other one is called digital electronic media. Website, yes, you can communicate through website or social media, instant text, messages, phone or platform of other platform, or email or fax. It could be physical. Talk about body language or gesture or whiteboard. When I talk about whiteboard, the one I talked before, I say the agile team prefer to work together face to face to see one another. And one of the way they can radiate information, they can share data and information about the project, they use Kanban board or whiteboard. These are the methods and the technology you can use. Why are we learning this thing? All these things must be planned before you start your project. It is not when you have started your project, you begin to look at how am I going to install the audio conferencing and maybe for the virtual team? How am I going to maybe create another technology for us to be able to communicate and engage? So all these are very important. So we are learning. Then what next are we need to learn before we go for a short break? There are different methods. The exam can also ask you on this communication methods. We have push. You push information to a group of people. You push it. Then you pull. The pull is the one that your team member can go to a particular repository and or database and bring out the information that will allow them to do the activities or the work of the project that are assigned to them. Or the stakeholder want to get a common understanding of the project. There's a particular place you put a repository, you put the information. They can go and bring it there, then drag it out from by themselves and look at the information there. These are the pool. The other one is called face to face, whereby I can see you face to face and I can communicate with you. You call that one pull, push, or interactive. Interactive is the one that I can see you face to face. I can interview you. I can ask questions from you about the project. I can get a response from you quickly from that project. So there are three methods: pull, push, and interactive communication. Pushing mean what? You send that determines. Send an email is an example of push. Make a phone call is an example of a push. I'm sending information to somebody. I'm encoding. The other person is decoding it. The pull is the pull method is what? Receiver determines. You now you determine this. What do you determine? Post information on the team board. Store reference document in the electronic repository, like a SharePoint. Now you can go there, we share information. If there you need any information, you go there and pick it by yourself. You are pulling it. You look at the relevant information that will help you to manage the aspect of the project or information that you want to know about the project. You can go and pull it by yourself. The other one that I can see you face to face is the one they call interactive. You and I can see you, can see me, I talk with you, respond back to me. I can clarify issue that is not clear about the project with you. Conversation, or virtual, or in person, or workshop, or collaboration. You can create a workshop. You can arrange for workshop whereby the team member, all the team member, and all the stakeholders will come together and collaborate and track issues that are affecting the project. You can make decision about the project or whiteboard or information radiator. This is whiteboard or Kanban board, whereby you radiate information, everybody can see it clearly. So agile team are co-located whenever possible so that they can be highly collaborative. Just give me 2 minutes, please. Let me ease myself. So I'm back. So why are we doing this one? Because you know that throughout the lifespan of your project, you keep on communicating information, the data about the project, report of the project, because the stakeholder also will need to track your work. You also will need to track the work you assign to your team member. So a lot of information will flow about. All these things will help you to know how to manage the stakeholder, how to give them whatever they want so that they can support you in the end. That's why we are learning all this. Now let's go further. By maybe 10:30 or maybe 11, we can put at 11, we can now have a short break. Then we have what they call, we have looked at the communication model. These are the communication methods. You can push information to a group of people, a particular person, through sending email or make a phone call. It can be pulled whereby a stakeholder or a team member need information about the project. It can go there in the repository and gather the information that can be useful for the type of work that can be assigned to him. It can be face-to-face communication. We call it interactive communication. We have pull communication, we have push communication, we have interactive communication. Agile team love to work together face to face. They prefer interactive communication. Agile team are co-located. When I say they are co-located, they like to work in the same geographical area so that they can be highly collaborative. As we have said earlier on, that a collaborative team is an highly effective team. So, and that is why I prefer use that methodology whenever I'm managing a project, because it allows us to collaborate. You can see one another face to face and can trash issue. You understand me? Early and quickly. But sometimes when we are talking about communication, it comes with challenges and some consideration. Before you can institute or maybe create a type of communication technology, you see that there are certain things you need to put into consideration. We call it communication challenges and communication consideration. This is what you are seeing here now. For you to pick a particular communication technology or any type, whether they pull or push or interactive, you need to consider all this. It's a urgency of need for information you consider. The availability and the reliability of the technology you need to consider. For example, now, if you are managing project in Nigeria and your team member are not in the same geographical area, you know that Nigeria natural maybe I don't know, we have a poor infrastructure when it comes to communication. So if you are now doing a project that you are in the interior part of the country and see all the masts, this MTN mast and that one, they cannot reach that area. So how do you communicate with that person? So selecting a type of communication technology with, can I see, in case of a Nigeria, a practical example, how available and how reliable is the technology? What is the ease of use of that technology? How easy for you to use it? That means that if you go and get a sophisticated technology that can assist you in communication, you still need to teach your team member or stakeholder. There's some stakeholder they don't go into all this. They just want something that's simpler. So that means that some of your team member, if they are not in the same geographical area, how easy is it easier for them to use it? That means you need to give them some training, especially if you are using technology that's more complex. Then the project environment also will determine language and formality. Because language is about communication too. If your team member are not in the same geographical area, or maybe they speak different languages, or your project span across many nations, you are speaking with a Frenchman or somebody who another language. That kind of technology can help you to convert the, maybe I'm speaking Yoruba or you are speaking English. That person doesn't understand English, he can only understand French. You have to get a kind of technology that can help you to do what interpretation of your intention or the information to the a Frenchman who doesn't understand English. You can see sensitivity and the confidentiality of the information. There are some technology that is not well secured in terms of maybe what do you call it? So if it's not well secure in terms of what do you do? So you have to get a kind of technology that can help you to secure the information, especially sensitive information that you are trying to pass across to your team member, confidentiality. So the information when it need to be secured, you need a kind of technology that is well secured so that the third party don't have access to that information. Communication OPA, social media and protocol, data protections laws and regulation. Those are the things you consider when you are talking about communication or when you are selecting the kind of communication technology that you are going to use for your project. Accessibility requirement. Is everybody have access to them? That's what I mean. Is it easier for us to use? Are they available whenever they are needed for our project? Are they reliable? Are they reliable? If you look at Nigerian case, you see we have all this off and on kind of a communication in Nigeria. So if you are going to work in the interior part, whereby the MTN cannot reach very well, their mass cannot reach that place. How do you communicate with those people who are that in the interior? So these are the what they call communication challenges and communication consideration. You can even add your own. Before I start my project, I know my team member will not be in the same geographical area. I need to communicate information to them, and I need to select the kind of communication technology. So, what will I put into consideration when I'm selecting that? Because if I don't put if I don't consider all these things, I may have challenges in communicating information about the project to them. What we are communicating here is the communication about the project so that everybody will be on the same page. You can understand the area assigned to you, your role, or when I need to get information from you, or when I need to give information to you. All those things must run smoothly. It will allow our project to run smoothly. So communication challenges and consideration. That is what we have talked about here. This thing we are learning make you as a project manager to be what? Proactive. You are not going to be a reactive project manager. The PMI stated it categorically clear. If you want to be a project manager that is more effective, you have to be able to make decisions that make you look like you are not a reactive person, you are a proactive project manager. So your ability to put all these things in place before you start the project work make you to be a proactive project manager. Nothing catches you unaware. You are prepared. You understand me? Your project is under your control. You are going to have a smooth running of the implementation of your project, and that in that way you can be sure that your project will come out successful. Now let's look at the model. We will look at the we have looked at the methods. Can I say method and technology? We have method, we have model. Every communication has the similar model. That's what they want us to know here. You can see this diagram. I hope you people are still there. Okay. Look at the model. As an IT person, you know that every communication has the same model, whether face to face, whether interactive, whether push, whether pull. Is this that somebody must encode it? Somebody will be a sender. Somebody must be a decoder. Somebody must be a receiver of that information. Even if you are using technology, there will be a sender or encoder or decoder or receiver. Why are we learning these communication models that there are two people who are communicating information to one another through a particular media or medium. So when you encode, the other person at the other side will decode it. So this model is trying to tell us that there are a lot of things that will make it difficult for the person who's supposed to decode your information. They call it noise. Every communication has noise. Anything that will make it difficult for me for you to understand what I'm trying to communicate to you is a noise. And communication model is also talking about what? That it helps us to, when we are communicating, to make sure that the other person at the other side understands the information about the project I am communicating to that person. So if that person doesn't understand or cannot get it, you need to get back to me and tell me that I should restate that word for him to understand. So what I was trying to do here is that Communication model help us understand that information need to be communicated and the both party must understand one another. If the information is not clear, it should be well stated or restate it again so that that information is not lost along the way. We have encoder, we have a message that being transmitted through what the media and the person receiving the information. So the information should be very clear so that there will not be a misinterpretation of information. And there are a lot of things that will not make a communication to be clear. They call it noise. Language can be a noise. Your culture can be a noise. Your personality bias can be a noise. If I'm speaking to an Hausa person or Yoruba person, there's a way he will pronounce a word that I may not really understand what he's saying. The same thing for a Hausa person, an Igbo person. I'm sorry to say this one. I used to stay at the eastern part of Nigeria. Sometimes some Igbo guy they will call Elu. That's a noise because I may not understand the meaning by Elu. What is Elu? Or Yoruba person, when you're talking about milk, that liquid we use for our tea, they will say milky. Those are the language, it's a noise. If you are trying to give me, what is milky? Milk. You say milky. I was a person who also talk his own. I'm crazy. I'm crazy. The way you want to say it, you may not understand. Those are the noises. I'm going to give you a local example. Why communication model is very important. Somebody encode the information, somebody will decode. The communication model make us understand that the information should be communicated in such a way that both parties must understand the content of that information. If the content is not clear to either the encoder or decoder, it will be well restated. So communication also depends upon what the emotional state or the mind of the person you are communicating. If the person has issue, is not concentrating, most of the information you communicated to the person will be lost. He's battling with some emotional issue, so that he cannot really focus. So that's why they want us to listen. Somebody encode, somebody decode. A sender encodes it, decoder receive it. And the purpose that the message and the feedback must be clear. You send me a message, I'll give you feedback. But if I send you a message and you didn't give me feedback, it is assumed that you understood the information. That's very important. Now let's look at the stakeholder engagement strategy. You must have a strategy you will use in your project setting to what? Engage your stakeholder. You can see. Because you must know how to collaborate with stakeholder. You must know how to relate with your stakeholder. You must know how to involve the stakeholder. You must know how to engage with stakeholder. You must know how to interact with stakeholder. You must be very friendly with the stakeholder. You must be closer to the stakeholder. You must, you must take you must take some of the stakeholder to be your mentor. You must create and maintain relationship with your stakeholder. Those are the kind of the way you can engage them. It's very crucial for you because if you don't know how to engage with them, they can frustrate you. They can misinterpret your intention about the project. They may oppose your project. Some of them may assist and they may support your projects. Some of them will resist the idea about your project or you are doing. So that if you know the tactics, strategy you can use to do that, to engage them, it will be better for your project, the success of your project. So by collaborating, by relating, by involving them, by engaging them, by interacting with them constantly every time, by being friend to them, by being closer to them, all these things will aid. These are strategy. You will involve the stakeholder. That is involvement. Some of them like to be involved. They want to be the part of the process. Enable appropriate management strategy. Then you also need to work to create and maintain the relationship. It's going to help you. So effective stakeholder management involve what? Engagement is a critical component of successful project management. By identifying stakeholders, communicating effectively with stakeholders, managing their expectation, and mitigating their risk, project manager can ensure that project meets what stakeholder needs and stakeholder expectation, stakeholder interest, needs, and preferences, leading to what? Better outcome of your project. This is very important for people who would like to do the project work. You say, what are the stakeholder engagement strategy? The exam will not ask you what are the engagement strategy. But what does it mean? Is it the effective stakeholder management involve what? Engagement, because we know that engagement is very critical. And engagement is a critical component of successful project management. So by identifying the stakeholder is one of the engagement strategy. Communicating effectively with the stakeholder is one of the engagement strategy of the stakeholder. That's one of the way you can engage the stakeholder. Then managing expectation of the stakeholder is one of the strategy, and mitigating the risk of the project, especially the risk that affect them, is one of the engagement strategy. So a project manager can ensure that project meets stakeholder needs and expectation. When you cater for their needs, their expectation, their interest, do you understand me? Their preferences, it will lead to what? A better outcome and increased satisfaction of the stakeholder. All these things are very important. So by now, you should know how to engage your stakeholder. Whatever interests them is what you prioritize more in your project. So this is where we are going to stop after I finish this one now. We are going to look at another example that can help you to engage with your stakeholder. We call it example stakeholder engagement assessment matrix. We call it SEAM. If you look at this diagram, this is where I want to engage us now. I want to know whether you are following me. I want you to study this diagram and tell me what does it mean to you based on the information that you can see on the screen. So I will call somebody to look at that. They have gone. Are you there? Mr. Ayuade? Look at the diagram
Yeah,
on the
I'm
screen.
back. My network was just
And because I just see
malfunctioning.
that
I'm
it
back.
disappeared briefly and
No, it was the network. I didn't even. I just stopped hearing you, so I had to go and check. So it's the
okay.
network. I'm back.
Okay, I say look at this. We call this diagram stakeholder engagement matrix.
Sorry, Mr. Dana, can you close the dialog box on the screen? This view summary because it's not allowing us to see the screen
Okay.
properly.
What about this?
Yeah, now it's better.
You say we call this one stakeholder engagement assessment matrix. It's one of the way you can engage the stakeholder. If you look at this diagram, say in the column here, stakeholder, there are some stakeholders that are not aware of the project. Some of them, another one are resistant, they resist the project. Some of them are neutral, they either here or there about the project. Some of them are supportive. Some of them desire to lead the project. But you have information here now. If you see where they write CC, they say the current engagement level. D mean desire engagement level. That is, you have identified them, you know their nature, the characteristics of the stakeholder. You want that anywhere you see D. Okay, let me allow you to look at this very well, whether you understand. If you don't understand, I can explain it to you. What do you think this diagram is trying to portray?
Yeah, so it's trying to talk about the state of their relationship, but what to the project. But one question I have: before somebody can be resistant to the project, the person must have been aware.
Of course.
And I could see within.
Oh, the network again. Okay, let me capture it to you. You are a project manager, you create this document. You call it stakeholder engagement assessment matrix. Look at the number one here. This stakeholder, they didn't put the name there for purpose of security. I don't want the information to roll out. This stakeholder number one here is leading. Can you see? The current engagement of this stakeholder is leading. But You desire wherever you see D, you don't want him to lead. Your own desire for him as a project manager, you want him to do what? To support.
Hello?
Yeah.
Sorry. The network went up again, but I think I'm stable now. I've been able to fix the issue.
Okay.
So what I was saying is that here I could see that this chart is only telling us the relationship of a stakeholder to our project, which is
Yes.
to guide how we need to relate with them,
Mm-hmm.
and see the kind of intervention we need to do to either change their state if necessary.
Yeah.
But the question is that I could see, for instance, if somebody is currently resisting the project,
Yeah.
we have C as the current level of engagement. Now, on that column of unaware, I said before somebody can be resistant to your project, the person must have been aware about the project.
Yeah.
And you said so. Why are we okay? So why are we? What indication are we having for those who are not, let's say, maybe I know, okay, I think I understand what is happening because once somebody, we can only focus on unaware and not aware.
Yes.
Okay, I think I understand what is happening now. Okay, okay.
So if you look at this one now, this stakeholder here, stakeholder number one here,
Mm-hmm.
he love to lead in the project. They want to be some of the leader in the project. But when you are studying very well, discover that you cannot lead very well. And it's current engagement. That is what is doing the project. It could also be this stakeholder can also be your team member. He love to lead. That's the current engagement level. But your desire for him, your own desire, you study him, is not good at the leadership area. Can you see? You know that he can support. Can you see? D mean desire engagement level. C mean current engagement level. Now you are using this one to engage with that person. Okay, I prefer that this person, instead of him leading, you should support. Are you getting it?
Okay, sorry. Now I have one question. I have one question. Is it possible for your desired engagement level to be unaware? Because I think that's the question I wanted
No,
to ask.
you see that one, you don't feel anything there.
So okay. So the question then, why then do we have it?
Just for record purpose. Okay,
So
it could also be that somebody is not aware.
and maybe the current engagement level is that the person is not
Is
aware.
not aware of the project.
Okay,
So
so what if somebody is not aware and then the person is neutral? So I think that's what I was trying to check the other time.
okay.
So you understand my point?
Yes. Somebody is
So
okay, that's true. You're right. But just know that they may not feel everything. Just know that here now. If you
okay.
look at the stakeholder number three, currently is neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Your desire for him to be what? To support. But it's a neutral person. This one too is
Okay,
too
I see.
neutral. We want you to be supportive. This person is a resistant. You know, there's some people stakeholder who resist anything you want to do because maybe they are benefiting from the old system. Your project is supposed to bring changes. I said, this kind of project that is coming will not allow me to do my own thing the way I want it. So what do you need to do? You make sure that you make it to be neutral. You understand me? Because it's a resistance, it's a negative thing. Let it be neutral so that you don't disrupt your plan. So you can put anything you like, the way you want it. You know, you understand the project. You are managing the project with your team. You know what you want that can help you to move your project forward. For example, if you look at the number 6, the person is supportive. I see, current level.
Yeah.
But the best place for him is that you want him to lead. It's one of the strategy to engage people. If I can even add additional one, say somebody is not aware, I will put awareness somewhere else. He's not aware, so I'll do what? That the current level is not aware of the project. I will create another thing here, awareness. Or it's not aware. I may not even put awareness. I'll make it to do what? I want you to support. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yeah, it's one of the tactics for you to engage because that means you are working with them, you are working closely with them, you make some of them to support, to lead. You are trying to change the mind of somebody who is resisting. Make him to see the need to support, so that the importance, you make him to see the importance of the project, how it's going to impact him, the impact organization, the impact the progress in organization. I will help us to be able to achieve our strategic objective. That's the purpose of this one. Engagement is about engagement. So I think we go for break now.
That's fine.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. When we come back, we go to the next topic. How do you form your team? Form the team. That's what we do next. Thank you very much. We come back by, let's use about it's 11. Let's come back by 11:20.
Okay, that's fine. But I have a question,
Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
which is on the note for this, because most of sometimes, when you join online, there could be distractions.
Hmm.
But I must commend your knowledge. I think I really appreciate
Thank you very much.
your expertise in this area.
Thank you.
So I just want to ask the note for this. Are we getting it? Because
Yes.
there's a manual. Okay.
Okay. To even make it yeah, faster, can you just pour your email to me in that
Chat
yeah, in the
box.
chat box here, so that I can just copy it and I
Okay.
send some of the information to you.
Sure.
Good.
All right. I've done that.
Okay, good. I love that.
Thank you.
I'll send it to you.
All right. Well done. Thank you so much.
Okay.